Well, this is an absolute treat, I've got to be honest. Welcome back to BT Sport, ruthless himself, Mr. Robbie Lawler. How are you, sir? You well?
I'm good.
Listen, it's great to see you, obviously in anticipation of another great fight week. And there's loads of, from a fan's point of view, nostalgia and loads of different narratives connecting to this fight. Obviously, I want to concentrate the majority of this conversation on yourself. But first of all, 17 years in the making from the first fight. Facebook wasn't even really a thing 17 years ago, Robbie. You know, a lot of people obviously all over social media these days, aren't they? Usher was #1 in the charts with Yeah, and Shrek 2 was doing bits in the movie theatre, my man. Does it feel like it's that long ago?
I don't know. I've been doing this a long time. It doesn't feel that long ago, but like when you look at it, it has been a while. I've changed a lot and grown a lot, and all part of the journey.
Watching action from 17 years ago, and obviously what happened after that, and watching you now, you seem a far more measured fighter. Is that a fair assessment? In those early days in the UFC, a lot of emotion, it felt like, as a fan watching, was connected to your fights. Now you seem a little bit more cooler and calmer and collected.
Yeah, definitely like more emotional, more feeling, and just now I'm just seasoned vet now, just kind of like making all my moves count.
Marinated, man. They put a little bit of salt and pepper on it, and he knows when to come out the oven. I like it. For a lot of new fans that are watching us on BT Sport, they may not know that. Obviously, they've heard our narrative of, listen, it's 17 years in the making, this rematch with Nick Diaz, blah blah blah. But they may not have known what happened to you in the immediate aftermath from that, because obviously that was a fight that took place in the UFC. You then moved away from the UFC, dominated plenty of other franchises like Strikeforce and what have you, and then returned to the UFC 9 years later. So talk to me about that. I don't want to say interim period, because you're still competing at the very highest level of mixed martial arts, but talk to me about that period of learning and growth and kind of Robbie 2.0 that we saw when you came back to the UFC.
Yeah, it was just a fun experience. I actually got to fight in Hawaii for like 3-4 years, which was like a vacation 3-4 times a year, which was nice. And just enjoyed fighting, not too much media attention, just kind of showing up. I was fighting at 85, not really cutting very much weight, just enjoying the freedom of fighting and just enjoying the sport. So it was good, and just kept my skills, kept working, lifting weights, having fun, and trying to sharpen everything and get better.
Did it help? I like the way that you put that you went to Hawaii basically because the holidays came along with obviously being able to do the thing that you loved as well. But did it help, even though there was still eyes on what you were doing with the other franchises that you were a part of at that time? Did it help not having as many eyes on compared to what obviously the UFC fan base brings in that growth period that you went through?
I think it helped me because I'm not the type to want eyes on me. I'm not doing it to be like a star. I enjoy it because I love fighting. I love competing. It's something I've done my whole life. So I'm trying to make money, obviously, but I'm not trying to be like a celebrity. I'm just trying to enjoy what I do, and my craft is fighting, and that's what I focus my time on. But it was definitely nice to not be in a spotlight and just enjoying it.
When obviously that first fight with Nick and what happened, and maybe you don't do this, but I do, given me being a fan of yours, I kind of class that one as your first actual real defeat, because the one previous to it was, let's be honest, you were injured. You know what I mean? It was a hip injury that ended up stopping that fight. How did you deal with that? How did you deal with what many would class as a first real defeat in the cage?
It was rough. I mean, I was young at the time and definitely hurt at a time when you think you're like invincible, nothing can stop me kind of thing. And you take a loss like that, it kind of like humbles you. But I'm always the type, I mean, I've been wrestling and competing my whole life. It's like, all right, why did that happen? How can I get better? What are the things I need to work on? So that's where I always win. It's like, oh, it's not a woe is me. It's like, all right, how do we get better? And those are the things I've always focused on. And so that was it. Just try to get better and grow as a fighter and sharpen my skills.
You most certainly did that, because I like to get inside the head of of fighters, and especially when they do suffer a loss like that, and what then enables them to climb to the very top of the mountain. Because let's be straight, again, we keep talking about the history and the length of time between these two fights. The fights with Rory McDonald hadn't happened yet. The fights with Carlos Condit hadn't happened yet. The Johnny Hendricks fights hadn't happened yet. You hadn't been the UFC champion at that particular time, but you got there. You went on you went on that journey. Would you say for you that the biggest journey wasn't necessarily physically, because you've always had that ability? It was what goes on between the ears, and that is maybe what now you're able to pass on to those younger fighters that you're working with at Sanford?
For sure. It's like one of those things where you're developing your skills, you're seasoning, you're like figuring out what works and how to make life easier. Before it was like seek and destroy, and now it's like, all right, let's be a little smarter out there. This guy might have some tricks. I didn't really pay much attention to what the other guy was doing as much as like, I'm just gonna freaking attack and the guy's gonna freaking fall down. So that was kind of my mindset. So it's just coming to the realization, all right, like becoming a pro really, and being like, all right, how do we get better? Listen to your coaches, work harder, just diving in and trying to get better in all aspects.
Robbie, with all due respect, the first thing that you talked about there is the reason why I became a fan, because you did just went, let's have it, man. Let's have a fan. And I think that's why you've got a huge fan base all around the world. We'll do it. Listen, I know that you're a more seasoned fighter now. You're a lot more calmer in your approach. But at the weekend, when it is you and Nick and the cage door shuts, will we revert to type? Will we just get absolute carnage?
Yeah, that's always the plan, but it's gonna be sharper. It's gonna be not so leaving myself out there. So it's just gonna be sharper and just a better version of myself.
Talk to me about the narratives this week, because we found out over the last 24, 36 hours that there's a weight change for this fight. Originally contracted with Blue for welterweight, and now we've heard that Nick wants to do this at 185. What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it is what it is. Just time to figure it out and get the job done. So we're fighting, and it's going to be at 185, and that's all that matters. So it doesn't matter. Just got to go out there, make sure my weight's where it needs to be. I'm feeling strong and sharp, and that's it.
Listen, I know you're a fighting man, and that was always going to be your answer, but that must be frustrating. You have put in hard work in a camp during a difficult time with pandemics and various things like that. You've catered in your mind to be at 170 on a certain day, and now that doesn't necessarily have to happen, that must be frustrating.
It's definitely something that I don't like the way it went down, but it is what it is. So I have to kind of move forward and focus on the task at hand, which is making sure my weight's where it needs to be, and then I'm sharp. And I mean, it is what it is, right?
Fair enough, my man. You're dignified as ever. The kudos as well that is around this fight, for it to be a 5-rounder, with it not being a main event or a title fight or anything like that. It's a co-co main event. It's the people's main event, if we're really, really honest. But to have that as a 5-rounder again, just goes to show how highly you were held in regard in the UFC.
Yeah, I think the fans want it, the UFC wants it, Nick wants it, and I mean, I can go 25 minutes, whatever. It's a fight's a fight. Like, let's go out there and find out who's the best on Saturday.
How have you been recently regarding performances? Because I'm sure that many people have asked you about your recent fights, and if you just look at them on paper, yeah, okay, it doesn't look the greatest, but there's narratives to every single one of those fights, the Askren situation, all those types of things. How are you looking at that? It must be extremely frustrating when you're still competing with the very, very top guys in your division. It's very, very close, a lot of the fights, but the decision haven't been going your way. How are you feeling coming into this one?
I feel good. I put in a really good camp. Had good guys, Jason Jackson, helping me out, sharpening my skills. So, like, that's really what I focus on. How I feel. I'm motivated for this fight. Obviously, Nick's a huge name, and changed a few things, and my body feels great, which is awesome. So my mind's where it needs to be. My skills are sharp, training camp went really well, and that's why I'm not worried about 185 or 170, because I know the work I put in. I know the effort and everything that I did it the right way, and that's what I'm falling back on.
Who would have thought that when Pat Milicic used to come into your high school, college, bringing in fighters, that inspiration that you took from those moments all those years ago, mate, that we'd still be here. We'd still be here competing at the very highest level in the people's main event on these mad cards.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been a long road since those days, and shoot, that was probably like 97 when I first met him ish. So it's like time flies.
Listen, here's an interesting stat for you. I don't know if anybody's thrown this up. This is a bit of a geeky one for you. Obviously, you've had countless fights in the UFC over 2 spells. You've never, ever fought in the month of September in the UFC. There you go. You're ticking something off. You've fought in every single month of the year, bar September, and at the weekend you tick it off.
Oh, that's I like that stat.
There you go, man. I thought I'd leave you with that little random stat for you coming into this fight. Listen, Robbie, you know that we're all huge fans here in the UK, man, and we wish you well throughout the course of this week and the fight of the weekend. For people that are going to be tuning in and watching it, tell them what they can expect.
Expect the best Robbie Lawler they've seen for a while. I'm going to go out there and showcase all the work that I've put in, and I look forward to putting on an awesome performance.
Can't wait to see it. Robbie, thank you so much for your time, and enjoy the rest of the fight week, my man. Take care.
Thank you.